Welcome back to another fuck, hold on. Let me restart. Let me restart.
All set.
Welcome back to another Cardinal Chronicles show. I have my co-host Dylan Grouse once again and a few very special guests. We have Carter and Logan from College Football Weekly. How's everybody doing today?
Doing good, guys. Thanks for taking the time to talk to us on this very special pre-college football season show. It's going to be a good one. We got a lot to get into. There's college football on this weekend, guys. Yes, you heard that correctly. There is college football on this weekend. We are back and we are ready to go. It should be a fantastic campaign all around college. Today's theme, though, needs no introduction. We're talking Stanford football. We got the guys at College Football Weekly. We're here to break down the schedule, transfer stuff, and everything in between. Guys, how are you guys doing on this fine Monday afternoon?
I mean, great, excited for the season. Obviously, Stanford's got a lot of news changes happening within the program. Should be an interesting year.
Yeah, me too. I'm looking forward to it. I miss the days when I could go to a Stanford football game and actually have fun. I hope those days come back soon.
Yeah, well,
Yes.
we all hope so too. But before we get going on what the season looks like, let's talk some news with Stanford. They have a lot of new faces this year. I know that they have a new head coach. They have a lot of new changes. So, guys, why don't we talk about some of those changes that have happened? Let's start with the transfers and guys coming in. Carter, what do you have for us on that?
Yeah, in terms of the guys coming in, it's a lot of replacements to guys coming out positionally. I mean, you got Bear Bachmeier, quarterback, leaving the quarterback room. You bring in Bell Gorbinson from Oregon State. You got David Bailey leaving the D line room. Haven't really replaced that. That's a position I'm worried about this year for Stanford is that D line. Don't think it's great, but even though they lost Emmett Mosley to Texas last year, losing 48 receptions, 525 yards, and 6 touchdowns. CJ Williams coming in from Wisconsin, the former number 7 wide receiver in the country out of modern day. Hasn't really panned out the way everyone thought so far at USC and Wisconsin. I think he's in the prime role to be wide receiver 1 at Stanford this year. And then also back to Ben Goldbrinson. He's recently been named QB1. He's a transfer from Oregon State, and he's a former 3-star. He stands out to me as kind of a Cade McNamara-esque guy for those familiar with the Michigan program. He's never been above 1,500 yards in his career, but he has never boasted a season with a below 60% completion rate. So he completes passes, he moves the chains, and I think if Stanford wants to win games with Ben Goldbrinson at quarterback, they will need a strong running back this year. That's the position
Yeah.
I think is the most important this year for Stanford.
Yeah, and talking about Ben Goldbrinson a little bit, he's been in college. I believe it's now his sixth year, but every single year it feels like there's a new guy coming in, like DJ Uiagalelei. And every year it feels like there's a new Oregon State quarterback transfer. So Goldbrinson hasn't really been able to emerge as a starter. So you said he hasn't been over 1,500 yards, but when you look at, these games played, he's played 4 games here and he's played 5 games here. He hasn't played a full 12 game stretch. And if he pans out the way that Stanford fans hoped and he plays 12 games this year, I see a 2,500, 3,000 yard season.
Yeah, and the cool thing about him is I think, when you look at the decision to make him the starter, one thing that's interesting is his name wasn't really floated around too much in the competition.
Not at
So the
all.
decision kind of came out as a surprise. But when you think about it, it's the most logical one because Reich's offense is much more complex than what they've run in years past. He's running an NFL offense. He's not running your standard college offense. He's running a pro style offense that has a very big emphasis on pro. So the biggest thing that Stanford needed from a quarterback was experience and a guy who can take command of the offense. And from the sounds of it, it sounds like Ben was the one guy who's really able to command that offense and control the offense. And that's a big thing that Stanford's needed. They've had a bunch of quarterback problems over the last couple of years, and this year they really hope to address that. So I'm confident in Ben Gilbranson. Now, one question I do have is what are the odds that we see Elijah Brown take over at quarterback this year? Because he is the QB2. We got confirmation today from Reich himself that he is the QB2. But what do we think about him coming in? Do you think he's going to come in at all and play or what?
And add Dylan Risk in that as well.
Yeah, Dylan Risk for sure. But yeah, but what are the odds that we see a rotation at quarterback this year and have a new guy play later on down the line?
Yeah, I'm pretty high on Elijah Brown. I saw him have a great game against Cal Poly last year. Definitely showed a lot of flashes. I mean, highly touted recruit out of high school. And it was a bit of a questionable decision for Ashton Daniels heading over to Auburn. Did not win the starting job over there. So it would have been nice to have him as a certified multi-year starter. But I think Elijah Brown could easily make some competition through the season. Maybe get some like quarters, full games.
I mean, for me, I think it's going to depend on how good Stanford is. If Stanford's competing for a bowl game, that's kind of the goal for Stanford football this season, get into a bowl game. If they're competing for that, I don't think they should make any changes. But like for me, I see Stanford having a very good season until about week 6. And at week 6, the wheels start falling off the train, so to speak. Put in Elijah Brown, put in DeAnthony Hall, put in these young guys, Benedict Uwe, like put in these guys that are going to be cornerstones for the program in the future. Because Stanford, they can never consistently recruit well, but they get individual good recruits, and that has not stopped this year. So I think they do have experience on the team, like Logan mentioned with Will Granson, but I think it really just depends on how good the team is and how they balance experience versus potential.
Yeah, and one position that I thought's really interesting, kind of going back to what you said about, John Anthony Hall and those guys, the receiving core, right? You got Emmett Mosley who left for Texas. You're losing a big player. A big player, as you said, you're losing about 500 yards, 6 touchdowns, 48 catches. You're losing a big player, but you got guys like John Anthony Hall coming in. You got CJ Williams coming in, Caden High coming in. Just kind of talking about the changes at the receiving core and what you see is going to happen at that position in 2025.
Yeah, I just wanted to highlight incoming transfer Caden High from South Carolina State. Probably one of my favorite guys coming into this season. I mean, 15 yards a catch is just insane at any level. I think he'll definitely be an X factor for the Cardinal in their offense.
I agree. Getting high, 908 yards, 62 catches, 7 touchdowns. I think that's very good. Obviously, CJ Williams, I don't think he's been utilized the way that he's meant to. He's a big body guy stuck in a air raid Wisconsin offense. That's not going to work. Can't really make much judgments off him as a freshman at USC. I still think I trust that top 10 receiver in the country label he was given out of high school. I think CJ Williams can be a true alpha, wide receiver one, Caden High, wide receiver two. And then other guys, Anthony Hall from Fishers in Indiana, obviously a guy I think could be a very guy impact early. However, he does have some injury issues. But Stanford is historically good with receivers. Like Eric Aluminor, sorry if I mispronounced that, JJ Arcega-Whiteside. Like
Yeah.
it's not like
Chris Owusu,
Stanford
back in the day.
it's not like Stanford doesn't know what to do with receivers, and I think they have enough talent in that room that if the quarterback can put it out there, the wide receivers can go get it. Again, though, I hate to sound like a broken record, but the O line is something I'm very concerned about for Stanford this year. I think that Stanford receiver core is good enough to not be stopped only if the offense has some balance. And I kind of think that's going to be the issue to get these guys because these aren't good enough to beat 7 guys
Now,
dropping back.
now, assuming that the line ends up being okay, you got Nikki Prongos there, you got just a few, you got some guys who are coming back, but assuming the line is good and the offense is good, has a flow, who do you think ends up as the wide receiver one this year? I personally think I've heard a lot of good things about John Anthony Hall. I've heard he's a guy that they're looking at, but he's also hurt and he may not play on Saturday. So who do you
I don't
guys
think he'll
think
play
is gonna
on Saturday.
what?
I don't think he'll play on Saturday.
So okay, so if he's out on Saturday and he misses time and it takes some time to get back, who do you think will emerge as the wide receiver one, at least to start the campaign?
Logan, you want to start?
I mean, yeah, I was just talking about him. Caden High, I think he'll probably have one of those breakout games, and people are gonna be like, "Wow, this guy's really got the talent." I mean, if he can translate a lot of that talent that he had at the previous level, then I think he could easily be wide receiver one rest of the season.
I mean, for me, this is something that is going to go against my philosophy when it comes to recruiting. Because in general, I'm a guy that's like production over potential. But
I agree.
unfortunately, I don't see that coming this year. I think this is an exception with CJ Williams. My brother goes to Wisconsin, just graduated. I've been at Wisconsin football games and seen firsthand CJ Williams get wide open, no DBs within 7 yards of him. And Braden Locke, the Wisconsin quarterback who transferred to Arizona, check it down for a 3 yard loss. Like I just don't see that happening with either Brown or Volgerson at Stanford. I think CJ Williams finally taps into his potential to become wide receiver one. He has the frame to do it. That's the main advantage I think over Caden Hayes. CJ Williams is just bigger.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Williams will definitely be the number one. And honestly, I like John Anthony Hall to be wide receiver two at this point. I think Caden High, South Carolina State transfer, could compete for the number three spot. Even Jordan Onovugwe from Colorado. I don't know how to pronounce his name, but yeah, I think there's so many transfers coming in, so many guys that can compete for the spot, and we haven't even mentioned David Pantelis, who is out for the year with the torn ACL, I believe, and yeah, so he will be facing significant time, but played at Yale. He'll be back next year, and he will probably be the wide receiver one next year.
And before we get into the schedule, let's talk a little bit about the defense, right? You mentioned that David Bailey's loss is a problem. We don't know what Stanford's going to do to kind of replace that production. Now, me personally, I think that Wilfredo Ibar and Tevero Tafiti are good players. And I think this year we're really going to see how good they are because now that David Bailey's gone, it's going to take more than one player to make up for that production. So, what are your guys' take on the makeup of the defensive line and what the team can produce defensively on that side of the ball without David Bailey getting to the quarterback?
Yeah, I mean, obviously David Bailey's a pretty big loss. Probably going to be playing on Sundays. But a guy I just wanted to highlight really quick is Benedict Ume. Shout out, defeated stage 4 Hodgkin's lymphoma pretty recently. I think he's hungry. I think he wants to play, and I do think he'll be able to come in and compete for the starting role on that defensive line.
Yeah, I agree. Benedict Ume, that's kind of the same play style as David Bailey. He is not going to be David Bailey. David Bailey is elite and got paid elite oil money at Texas Tech, which is the only reason he's gone. But I mean, I hate to say it because it's obviously a big rivalry, but Hunter Barth, the linebacker coming in from Cal, the best incoming transfer in the class for Stanford. Three-star transfer, which as transfers goes, not too shabby. I think Hunter Barth could be a big guy, the linebacker core, but also Braylon Thompson, another Yale transfer, coming in at DB. You guys had Julian Neal committed from Fresno
Yeah.
State. I went to Arkansas, just slipped away because SEC money. That would have been a huge pickup. But I'll be honest, I think the Stanford defense is not good this year. And that the any bright spots would be guys like Benedict Ume, who can be cornerstones for the future. But in the NIL era, I mean, Benedict Ume could be gone after middle of the season.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
never know.
it's definitely tough defensively. Defense is going to be huge this year, especially with the tough ACC. You got all the quarterbacks in the ACC, all the high-powered offenses. So defense will definitely be a big part of the team. But now let's talk
Wait,
about
I do want to mention
Oh
one
yeah,
thing about the defense
yeah,
real
yeah,
quick.
absolutely.
Um, Obviously, they don't have many expectations, but I will say sixth in the country in returning production for the Cardinal defensively. And when you have guys like Colin Wright as a corner who are impact players, the safety room is incredible with
He's
Jay
a Sunday
Green.
player, Colin Wright too, I
Oh,
believe.
100%.
Yep.
With Jay Green and Mitch Leigburn, Scotty Edwards, all in the in the defensive back category. But even, like you said, Teveru Tafiti in the linebacker room. I really like I don't think that they have potential to be like a top defense in the country, but I think if things go well,
He'll
especially
surprise
during the
people.
year when they're not playing amazing teams, I see a world where
Yeah.
Stanford defense we're talking about,
Yeah,
you know,
and they'll surprise people. But now that we kind of know a little bit about the movement, let's talk about the schedule. We saw Stanford's schedule. It's a tough one. They have a generally favorable schedule to start, but then by week 6, week 7, their schedule gets really hard. They got games against North Carolina, Florida State, a Cal team that's a lot better than they were, I think.
I
Uh,
don't know about that.
I think that their
Yeah.
quarterback is good. That
They
freshman's
lost
really good.
Jaden Nott, Jack Endries.
No, they lost a lot of pieces, but their quarterback is good. He's not to be slept on. There's a reason they named him quarterback over Devin Brown. I've heard
Well,
some,
Devin Brown's terrible.
yes, but
Everyone
I've
knows
heard
that.
whispers that
That's
that
He went to
Michigan
freshman.
Ohio,
guys.
he went to Ohio State.
All right, so they got Cal, fine. So maybe not an improved Cal team, but you have a Cal team that's hungry. You have a Notre Dame team that's coming off of a national championship appearance. You have a Miami team that has Carson Beck and is ready to go. This schedule's tough. So what do we kind of look at this like what do we think of the schedule this year and where do we kind of see Stanford going and do we see wheels falling off early or late or kind of what do we see on the schedule this year?
Do you guys want to go game by game or should we go with the full prediction?
I'd say we
Um,
just look at the schedule overall. I mean, overall, just kind of just highlight some games, but just talk about it overall, like what we think overall about the matchups and where we think Stanford's going to be tested the most and all that.
Yeah, I mean, I've got their ceiling at 4-8. I don't think there's any way they could get higher than that. I think they could easily get wins at Hawaii this upcoming week. San Jose State, which would be a home game, lost a tough one in San Jose last year, but and they could easily win games like, Virginia, Cal, weaker ACC teams. They just have a chance in those, but I don't think they have any chance against any of these other teams.
Yeah, I mean, we're looking here. Me and Logan aren't in agreement on the full schedule, but this stretch of games, SMU, FSU, U Miami, Pitt, UNC,
That's a
Cal,
lot of
Notre
road
Dame.
games. So.
We all have them at 1-7 during that stretch, if I'm not mistaken. Or no, 1-6. I'm mistaken. 1-6. I just think that it's too much for a young Stanford team that doesn't really have their identity. I mean, I would say the identity is to pass the ball with that receiving room. I think it's the strength of the team. But I think like in games like on the road at North Carolina in November, like it's might be raining, it might be hailing, it might be snowing, like Pitt, like obviously you avoid a lot of that weather situation being the ACC and not like the Big Ten. But like I just don't trust Stanford to walk into a road environment against an even level team and pull away with a win. I think they're a team that's going to do very well at home, but I just think that that road stretch traveling across the country way too much for Stanford this year.
Yeah, I mean that last. Just looking at the schedule right here. I mean those last what 6, 7 games right off the bat. You're looking at a gauntlet of a schedule. You're playing SMU, a playoff team. Miami, probably going to be a playoff team. North Carolina, not a playoff team, but maybe if they play their cards right, they could have a bowl season. If they are as good as advertised, Notre Dame should be a playoff team. I mean, I'm being honest. I don't see this team winning more than 2 games. And if you look at their schedule, Hawaii's a winnable game and San Jose State's a winnable game, maybe. But you look at BYU. BYU is a season removed from an Alamo Bowl win. Yes, they lost a lot of pieces, but BYU is always good. Boston College is much improved. Virginia's improved. SMU is still going to be good with Kevin Jennings at quarterback. Miami's much improved. Florida State's improved. Pretty much every team that they played against, maybe not Cal or whatever, but all those teams have improved. So I don't see a rebuilding team like Stanford really standing, I wouldn't say not standing a chance, but I don't see a rebuilding team like Stanford really competing against these teams in the ACC. They're ready to go, honestly.
Yeah, I agree. Also, I think that BYU game, they're not going to win it, but that is a momentum shifter. If
Oh, for sure.
That'll
Stanford
be a
wins
good
that
game.
game, flip the entire schedule. Like their games, like all of a sudden Pitt becomes a winnable game. I feel like if you can go on the road to BYU and win, all of a sudden, maybe you can pull an upset off against FSU. Maybe you can catch Miami sleeping the same way Virginia Tech did last year, almost did. Speaking of that Miami game, I will probably be at that game.
No, no.
But I just think that that BYU game, that is the tell-all tale for this Stanford season.
Yeah, and to me,
And
that BYU game is circled exclamation point, whatever you want. It could very well be because I heard the sources that BYU named Bear Bachmeier their starting quarterback. So you're
Yeah.
getting a quarterback who's not
They
only
have not yet, but they're
no,
about
no,
to.
no. They named him their there's
Oh, really?
the report came out that he's their quarterback. There's
hey,
a
Retzloff is
very
gone, so that makes sense.
let me put
Yeah.
it this way. If he's not their quarterback at this point, I'd be shocked. So Bear Bachmeier is 99% likely to be the starting quarterback come week 3 against Stanford. That means we're getting a Bear Bachmeier and Tiger Bachmeier playing against the team that they should have been on in 2025. So to me, while it may not be a game that they win, it's going to be like you said. If they somehow pull off an upset, if they
They're
compete
going to do everything they can to win that game.
if they win that game or they come close or compete, that's going to be an eye-turning game because that's going to be the type of game that's like, all right, we're ready to roll. So that's going to be a big game. But, now that we have the schedule, the most important, or I wouldn't say most important, the most intriguing question that's on everyone's Stanford mind is, what's the coaching situation going to be like? They fired Troy Taylor right before spring practice in March, and they hired an interim coach in Frank Reich. Now, Reich, great coach, great track record of being a coach, but we're not sure what's going to happen after this year. Is he going to stay around or not? So, what's going to happen with the coaching situation at Stanford?
I don't know what's going to happen with this coaching situation at Stanford. I think a lot of it comes down to how much the administration is willing to commit to the football program, especially with NIL. No, nobody's taking the Stanford job without pure NIL offers, and that should be available. Stanford is in the perfect location to capitalize on deals and money like that. And if they had an administration to take it seriously, I would tell them to hire John Gruden. John Gruden has ties to California as Raiders coach. He has ties to nearly everywhere. He's a football junkie. Just the look in his eyes, seeing him talk about football. I want that type of passion in college football. I think it's also like right now, Stanford only attracts one set of guys. That's like West Coast, high academic, 3, 4 star guys who, they want a good education. They want to play early. Those are kind of the guys that come to the program. John Gruden will completely flip that around. John Gruden will bring in football junkies, 2 stars who want to make it out the mud the same way that John Gruden, like, I think he's the perfect passion hire for college football. And it's such a contrast from what everyone views Stanford football as historically that I think Stanford could become a national recruiting brand and bringing guys from Florida, South Carolina, Texas to actually come to Stanford, get a world-class education, be in a great Northern California region, and like create an ACC superpower that really doesn't exist right now.
I have a
So
quick question.
I was gonna say, I have two names on my mind. I got one, Spencer Danielson of Boise State. I know that's gonna be a hard one to get, but you look at Boise State, they're in the Mountain West now. Yes, they're on the move to the Pac-12, but Stanford's shown that they have money to invest. They're paying Reich, I believe, 4 million this season, and they just hired the old Nike CEO to be the athletic director. So they're going all in on the athletic department. So they're proving that they want to get the resources. And Danielson's a young coach. He's built BYU into a perennial contender. You see the way that he knows how to develop talent. There's no better coach in my mind than him, just in terms of somebody who's a hot commodity in college, and B, somebody who's proven he can take a team that may not be super favorable in terms of the rest of the college world, and he's turned them into a winner. So if he can do that at Boise State, Stanford's a great job for him. Another name I have that I am very high on actually is Pep Hamilton, the OC at Maryland. He's been an assistant at Stanford before during the era of Andrew Luck being there, so he knows Andrew Luck well, right? So he has that connection, and Luck obviously is hiring guys that he knows and has a connection with and worked with. So I could see Pep Hamilton coming back to Palo Alto and taking over as a long-term head coach, especially if Andrew Luck is going to be there long-term. He's going to want to work with somebody he knows, and Pep is the perfect coach for that situation.
Yeah, just have a quick question. I love those by the way. But just quick question for Carter real quick.
Yeah.
So obviously Dan you said Dan Mullen or John Gruden, sorry. John
John
Gruden.
Gruden.
How do you think that John Gruden, his kind of recruiting process, how do you think he can keep Stanford's academic prestige and kind of keep what Stanford is known for in their football recruiting while still having the flash and the new guys that he wants?
I think the whole point of hiring John Gruden would to be to get rid of the whole thing Stanford's known for. I think it would be a kind of form of rebranding in a similar way that UNC is doing.
Mhm.
The only difference is UNC is, quite frankly, a better job and a better team than Stanford. Actually, I don't know about better job. I think Stanford has more potential as a job.
Yeah, I agree.
But I think that the whole point of bringing in John Gruden would be say, okay, we'll lax the academic requirement a little bit. We'll up the NIL a little bit. We'll get the fans moving. We'll get the fans involved, and we'll become more of a athletics brand. And if Stanford truly cares about that, John Gruden's the perfect guy to do so. But again, just because of politics and the way that Stanford is, I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah, the one thing I will say about Gruden, great coach, great. The only thing I will say, A, he's a Super Bowl champion coach, so getting him may cost more just because as a head coach, he has that Super Bowl, he has that pedigree and all that. And also, too, he's never coached in college. So I think that that type of hire depends on how they do this season with a coach who's never coached in college. If Wright can prove that he can help the team get better and that he has potential, then maybe Luck will look to hire someone like that again. But I do think that they're going to want to maybe stay in college football this time around just so they can have somebody who's familiar with the recruiting processes and the NIL process. Now, another thing about Gruden that I will say is, do we think Stanford hires a guy with all that baggage? And what I mean is, when the Raiders situation happened, do you think that Stanford's going to hire a guy who is who has all those problems against him, or do you think they're going to want to bring in someone who's going to bring positive attention to the program?
Logan, what do you think?
I mean, yeah, Stanford does have such a high prestige, but I do think John Gruden would really help them out. overall with all the ups and downs that he brings. It really is just up to Stanford's front office on if they want to turn the program around or not in the way he does it.
Yeah, and I think it also depends on like immediate impacts. Like John Gruden's not going to be given a grace period to bring down the prestige and the image of the program, which I don't think is necessarily has to happen by hiring John Gruden. I think you'd have to do something stupid again. But I just don't think that they're gonna risk that. Like I would love to see it happen. I think it should happen. I think it would be a complete rebranding, but I just don't think Stanford risks it, knowing Stanford. And I think they just they don't know if they can be a football powerhouse. They think they can. They think they have the potential. They think
They
they have the
have
money.
recently.
Yeah.
Or
They
last couple years.
but if it can't be consistent, I can't see Stanford sacrificing again what they're known for one in every
Right.
6 years of football success, like maybe the Christian McCaffrey and Bryce Love days brought.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, guys, we will see what happens come Saturday, but that was a fantastic analysis of what we have to expect. Now the question becomes, can Stanford surprise people, or is Stanford gonna continue to struggle? We will find out as the season progresses. But guys, thank you guys so much for taking the time to be on the show. College Football Weekly guys, if you guys ever hear them talk, please do. They have a lot of good information, and we got them on the show. So thank you guys for coming. Luca, do you have anything else to add on this episode?
Yeah. Just one more thing real quick. Can we get a quick record prediction from everybody before this?
Oh, I'm gonna say 2-10. I don't have. I mean, look, anything can happen, but you got too many odds against you. You got too many questions that need to be answered. Not a lot of time to answer it. You got a hard schedule of teams that are ready to compete for a championship. I just don't see a rebuilding team like Stanford really coming, frankly, close to competing this year. I think they're still a few years away. So I'm going to say 2-10, or for their ceiling, I'm going to say 4-8, but 2 and
All right.
10 is probably what I'm predicting.
All right. What about you guys? Oh no, I think we lost them. All
Oh,
right. Well, while their Wi-Fi is bad, I do want to give mine real quick. I actually think Stanford goes 4-8 or 5-7. I think that Pitt at home, Florida State at home are very 50-50 games, even Virginia on the road. San Jose State, I think, is a loss, but I think it's a close one. And obviously, I like us to beat Hawaii, beat North Carolina on the road, I think, as well. And maybe some big games. Obviously, Stanford's known for getting a bunch of big wins. Like,
we got
maybe
two
they
upsets
go,
last year, so we'll see.
yeah, maybe they go to Miami, get a win. Maybe they go, I'd probably, project them to go to BYU, get a win. I see a world where maybe not Notre Dame, but I see a world where they win games occasionally. And I
Maybe.
do think they beat Cal as well, especially with the true freshman at quarterback now. But I don't know. We'll see. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I was probably gonna agree with something like 2-10, but like you could see last year getting that ranked win against Louisville.
Hmm.
I'm gonna have to give them once again another 3-9 season as my prediction.
I agree, 3-9, and just so you know, Stanford is not going to beat Miami this year. I will bet anybody on this podcast who has listened this deep into the show, personally, $1,000 that
Oh, 1,000.
Miami beats
I've heard a
Stanford.
lot of projections of.
If Stanford beats Miami, I will pay everybody that comments on this video $1,000. But if Miami wins, that everybody has to pay me 100. No, I'm just kidding. Nobody has to pay me. I'll put my money on the line.
No, we
Miami
should do
beats
something
Stanford by
interesting. If
four
I
touchdowns.
Miami,
love
if
that.
Stanford beats Miami, we should give away a copy of NCAA football. That would be more fun.
Ooh, I
But
like that.
anyway,
I'll do some like punishments, like what's called like the impractical jokers. Like
Yeah,
if
yeah, yeah, yeah. Let's
Miami's not losing
heck
to
yeah.
Stanford this year, I promise.
All right. Well,
Hey,
anyway, appreciate all you guys for coming onto the podcast. Thank you again, Dylan.
yep,
Appreciate it, College Football Weekly team. And we will see you guys another time.
yep.
Thank you.
Stay tuned. See you guys.